So I'm sure you've noticed that for the past several weeks, I haven't had the game boxes. I have the game boxes, but I left them at home when I'm not at home. So, this week, I have the game box. I have the beautiful gold cartridge and the cardboard box outside of it. So you'll see that on my shelf. But until then, this game has turned into a Jolteon. Ocarina of Time. Everybody knows this game. Even people that know nothing about gaming know this game. Link is one of those few characters that is so iconic and can be recognized by people who know nothing about the games industry and is still releasing games to this day and isn't a piece of crap. So just Mario and Link. It's kind of sad now that I think about it, but hey, good job Nintendo. Oh, right. I picked this game to close out my August games, which are not coming out in August in any way, shape, or form, but shut up, because it was one of the first true games I remember playing. Not games that are educational by Jumpstart or some other similar company that are meant to teach me, but a game meant to do nothing but entertain me. The first console we got was the N64. It was given to us towards the end of the GameCube's lifespan with a box of games with it, and this was the first game that we ever put in. The whole family gathered around to watch me try out the game for the first time. They mostly watched me getting lost. Now, we also got a beautiful walkthrough guide with the game, but that didn't stop me from getting lost. Maps, marked paths, nothing stops me from getting lost. On an unrelated note, where am I? For those of you who somehow haven't played the game or know anything about it, hi Mom! You are Link, the hero of time. You begin in the hidden village of the Kokiri, where you are a social reject for not having a fairy. Nobody really likes you aside from your one friend, Soraya. The guardian spirit of the Kokiri, the great Deku Tree, talks to his personal fairy, Navi, and sends her to you to start you on your quest to save Hyrule. You venture through the tree before he gives you the sacred stone and dies. You bring the stone to Princess Zelda, who sends you to collect the next two. Things go sideways like a shelf of glass jars in a store with a small child climbing on them as the evil Ganondorf takes over, drives Princess Zelda out, presumably kills the king, and you get sealed away for 7 years between dimensions until you're determined to be ready to take on what you've caused. Yeah, that's right, you caused it. If you hadn't hunted down the 3 spiritual stones, Ganon would never have won. Any fairly competent Goron, such as their leader, could have taken care of the dinosaur that was released in their rock farm. If the Deku Tree was going to die with or without you going inside of him, he could have just kept his mouth shut, literally, and no one could have gone inside of him to gain the forest spiritual stone. Sure, that would leave Princess Ruto without her engagement ring, that being the spiritual stone of water, but you were taking that off her hands anyway, you sly dog, you. Everything would have remained the same. Ganon wouldn't have been able to open the doors to the spiritual realm to get the Triforce, which is what allowed him to take over and destroy everything like he did. You opened it for him. You caused all of this by not just keeping your nose where it so obviously belonged. In trying to save Hyrule, that all-knowing tree destroyed it. Now, there are parts of this game I quite like. In fact, this still remains quite a good game. However, overall, I can't say I enjoyed playing this game very much. There are 2 reasons for this. The first is because I have played the Ocarina of Time remake on the 3DS. This remake fixes a lot of my complaints about the game. The biggest of those is the controls. Holy crap, are the controls terrible! Some people I've talked to have tried to pass it off as them being dated, but that doesn't really work. Fighting Force was the same era, as was Eminem's The Lost Formulas. Both, while their controls weren't necessarily the tightest, felt better than this. Elmo's Letter Adventure was an N64 game too, and its controls actually felt a little bit better than this game too. Not by much, but throughout this game I would be almost snapping my control stick trying to get Lonk to do what I wanted him to. Who's Lonk? He's Link. Just stupid! I swear more of my deaths were due to Lonk being Lonk and refusing to obey his own game rules than anything else. You run at the edge of a cliff and Lonk doesn't jump off, he walks off it. Your control stick is flattened to one side, threatening to snap, and he just keeps meandering towards the next destination. You jump to the next ledge just fine, but he spazzes out and you can almost see his eyes cross in stupidity as his face smashes into the wall and he slides down it instead of grabbing a hold and pulling himself up. I wouldn't get as angry about this if I could control these actions at all, but the most control over jumping puzzles you're given in this game is to run at the edge of a platform and let Lonk jump on his own. Most of the time you either will just fine or the failure won't matter, but when it matters, Lonk can't take the pressure. No guys, seriously. Where am I? Luckily, the 3DS remake fixes that issue for the most part, but since I can't record that version, I was stuck with this one and Lonk's stupidity. Navi's pretty stupid in this version too. I don't know what she was focusing on half the time, but it'd be nice if it was the only thing in the room with me. You'd expect me to be upset when I can't use my Z-targeting in the last boss fight, but that honestly made it easier. Lonk just refused to jump properly while Z-targeting, and Navi would simply de-target things or never target them at all. Oi! Fairy! Do your daydream about how popular you're going to be with all the other fairies after the quest for once you're back from the quest. Trying to shoot things without Z-targeting is horrible. Unlike trying to run, the control stick is simultaneously too sensitive and not sensitive enough. Movements are either too small or too big. The remake added motion controls to aim, so as long as you're not playing it in the car, that issue is fixed too. Now, some other things that I disliked about the game can't be fixed. Some puzzles, they're not puzzles. Making an entire dungeon invisible with pits in the floor you can't see until you fall through and over and over and over and over, and I will find every pit ever dug and I will fill it with the game designer's entrails! My point is that's not design. That's being annoying. And nothing else. Shooting eye switches on a wall isn't challenging aside from control issues, or difficult to find or use. Even enemies don't tend to be challenging or interesting, they just force you to wait, to give a feel of challenge. Stand there and wait. And wait. And wait. And wait. Now these aren't to say there aren't good puzzles or challenges in Ocarina of Time, but I found it to be at a distinct disadvantage going back to play it again. I've played quite a few of the Zelda games over the years, and the puzzle types and ideas used in this game have been reused and expanded upon, often much better in later games. You might argue it's unfair to judge this game poorly for that, when it's where those ideas came from, but I really am just doing things that I've done better versions of with worse controls. Now, not everything is bad. The game really is still enjoyable. While the characters are kind of boring and just look weird for the most part, there are small details that matter. One thing that was pointed out to me while playing the game for a few weeks is that the loving couple in Hyrule Square, yeah, they don't really do or mean anything, but unlike every other NPC, they vanish when Ganondorf takes over. It's unknown what happened to them, but they simply don't exist anymore. The dungeons can border on annoying, but there's enough puzzles that are enjoyable to outweigh the annoying ones. And all of the boss battles are fun. Well, except for when Navi's too busy picturing her favorite fairy beefcakes to actually target Bongo Bongo's hands, or when my fight with the two old grannies glitches out so that they aren't taking any damage. Speaking of glitches, though, I have no idea what happened, but oh! I still enjoyed my time with the game overall, though. It might leave me confused on why a fish can be sexy or how something that's supposed to be alluring can be terrifyingly pointy, but at the same time, the game was okay. I would definitely suggest picking it up on the 3DS, though, instead of the N64. You're a lot more likely to have fun with it, even if you will miss out on some of the stuff that they cut out, like the awesome Fire Temple music. No, seriously, where am I?